Hey, John here. In this video I'm going to show you 3 steps that I like to use when I practice technique. And I use this mostly for learning new licks, and it really helps me to get them up to speed much faster than any other method that I know of. These 3 components are super important for any type of speed and accuracy gain when it comes to guitar playing. With that said, I'm just going to show you the lick that I played in the beginning, and then we can try it on that, and then the whole point is for you to apply this to anything else that you're working on. So here's what I played. I'm going to go through it pretty quickly here, and you have the tabs on my Patreon as usual. So we start here, this F sharp minor pentatonic, and it's going to go up in groups of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Back to the A string, up 6 from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then from the D string, I'm going to go up the whole shape, but it's still groups of 6. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. So this is the start of the next beat. And then the next group of 6 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then from this note, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we end up on the beat here. So all together. Now, I do this starting with a downstroke, just alternate pick everything. I'm not your dad, so you can do whatever you want, but that's how I played it in the intro, so that works for sure. Alright, so step 1 for me is to use something that I call transition time, and I have a whole video explaining that practice technique in depth, so I'm gonna share that in the description so you can check that out if this is too quick and you don't really get what I'm saying. So before you ask a question, you can check that video out, and it's fully explained there. But I can say this, it's one of the best practice techniques that I've ever found. And I didn't come up with it myself. I've seen a lot of great violinists use it, piano players, all kinds of stuff. I learned it from, mostly from a teacher at GIT, David Oakes, amazing player as well. But the whole idea is to play slowly, but move quickly as you play slowly. So the movements is the key here. So if I play this, I can either do it this way, meaning the bad way, where I basically go as slow as I play the notes, that's as slow as I do the movements. But this is the better way, where I play pretty much the same tempo, but now I'm gonna hold on to the note for as long as possible and then move as quickly as I can to the next note. So I get this instead. So the idea is that you want to minimize the time between each note, which means that you have to move as quickly as possible. And this is the true benefit of this technique, because you're basically moving at your top speed in terms of movement between notes, but you're playing very few notes per minute, if that makes sense. So you can still retain control. So it's almost like a speed burst from one note to the next, because I'm holding this note, going to that note. So instead of doing this sluggish way that I see a lot of people do it when they slow down, where everything slows down. So that's the whole idea between transition time. And the way you want to apply this is that you take the sequence, and then you move it down here to the first fret, and then you play the entire sequence, preferably with a metronome. And I would advise starting out doing this maybe between 50 and 100 BPMs, playing 1 note per click, which is very slow. But when you get used to this technique, you can speed it up a bit, but there is a threshold here where if you go too fast, you can't really make sure that your movements are as fast as possible. So you need to err on the side of caution here and play it slower than you think you're able to. So just remember that the benefit here is the speed at which you move from note to note. So basically you go down, first fret, and then you play the entire sequence in this fashion. And so on. So you do that on each fret, all the way up and all the way back. And once you've done that, you're gonna feel, just by doing this first step, that it's gonna feel really good to play this thing, and way smoother than you've done it before if you've never tried this before. So I highly encourage you to try this. So that's step number 1. All right, so step number 2 Again, we're going to use the same method of just doing it once in each position, all the way up and all the way back, just as we did with the transition time. But this time we're going to apply rhythmic variations. And these are basically endless, really. But the two most important ones to get used to is a long short and a short long. And again, I have a full video detailing all this stuff, why it's so good, that I'm gonna link in the description, so you can check that out if you feel a bit confused. But the basic concept is just that we're gonna, instead of playing this evenly spaced notes, we're gonna go long and then short. So we're gonna go, and as you heard, it's not a lazy type of long short where I go like kinda long and kinda short, because that won't do much. You want to really have a big contrast here between the notes. So long, short long, short long, short long, short long. And you do that throughout the whole thing. And then you would do the same thing, but you do the opposite. So you start with the short notes. You go short long, short long, short long, short long, short long, short long. And you don't need to say that, you will sound like a crazy person, but that's the idea. So long, short, short, long. This is also called dotted rhythms, but you don't need to worry about that. Just think about it as long, short, short, long. And again, you want to do that in each position. So you would start at the first fret, do long, short, and then you do short, long. And again, just like the transition time, you want to make sure to try to get it as fast as possible, whilst obviously being 100% accurate. And you will probably find that either long short or short long will feel more difficult. Doesn't really matter, just make sure you get through it. And again, make sure you do it all the way up as far as you can on the fretboard and all the way back. So it's gonna take a while, but that's a good thing. You really want to build a good foundation here, and just doing these two steps will improve your speed and accuracy a lot. So give it a try. Step number 3. Now we're going to use speed bursts. And again, I have a speed burst video that I'm going to link to, but basically a speed burst is where instead of trying to start with a slow tempo and raise the tempo as much as possible, we're going to start at the fastest tempo you can play accurately and raise the number of notes as we go along. And what I mean by that is that you start with the first note and just go 2 notes like that. So basically I just played the first note and the second note, and I pick it exactly as I would pick it normally. And I have a pause in between as well, so you don't want to do this. Instead, you want a pause so you can really assess what you did and, you know, see if you need to change something, and also make sure that you don't start building up a lot of tension here. And how fast you do this, that's going to depend on your level of technique right now. I mean, it doesn't matter how good a practice technique is, if you haven't put in enough time into all this practice already, you're not going to be able to play it as fast as I'm doing now or someone else is doing, but you're going to be able to play it faster than you could play the entire thing continuously. And that's the point. So just look at yourself. So don't get discouraged if you feel like, you know, it's very hard to do that, whatever tempo I showing you here. So that's irrelevant. All right, so you do 1, 2. Then you take the third note, the fourth note, the fifth note, and so on. So you keep adding notes, and obviously the more notes you add, you're gonna slow down a bit, but that's to be expected and nothing that you need to worry about. It's just about you getting out of your own way, basically, and getting a feel for what it feels like when you play it faster than you're able to do it continuously. And this one, I would just stick to whatever position the actual lick in question is. So this is nothing you need to move around the fretboard. And also this is the one that I would spend the least amount of time on. So I think the 2 previous ones should basically be 80 to 90% of your practice, and this one you basically just go through it as much as you can, but you don't want to be stuck on this one, because doing the 2 previous steps will make this step number 3 here way easier and way more beneficial. So don't just go for the speed burst because that sounds like, oh, it's speed, but the other two is actually laying the foundation for this speed burst to work. Like I said, I have a video on this as well, and I just show you what you can do if you get stuck. So I'm not going to cover that in this video. But what I want you to do now is just give this a try and see how it feels. So use this lick or something else, whatever you've been working on, and apply these 3 steps and do it for a couple of days at least. And then come back here and then just let me know in the comments if you feel that it helped you. So it's a bit different than the regular advice of start slow with a metronome and speed it up. That never really worked for me personally, and I have a video here explaining why and what I did instead.